Lorenzo J. Reyna with Lee Central Coast News, here with Josh McClurg. He has a very standout San Ynez Pirate team that's getting ready to come back, and I know that for sure you guys are itching to go back to the playoffs, right? I mean, you're tired of going 8-2 and missing out, right?
Yeah, I mean, of course that's our goal every year, and it would be nice to get there. But you know, like we tell the kids, control the controllables. We can't control the CIF process. We can't control what's been set out in front of us. All we can do is control our effort and the way we go out and play every Friday night.
How motivated are the guys? I mean, do you get a sense that they already had that chip on their shoulder? I mean, all those games they win, and I mean, they can't go the next step.
Yeah, I think they're a motivated group. It's a tight senior group. They've been together for forever. I think we have something like 23 or 24 seniors, and I think they have a big chip on their shoulder. They've set their goal this year of getting to the playoffs, and I think that's a huge thing for them.
You would say this year's team is a lot more experienced compared to the one last year?
Yeah, I think going into the season, definitely more experience. I mean, we returned 10 defensive starters. We returned 9 offensive starters. Of course, you know, the big one is Michael McCoy that we lose, but I think defensively right now we're super experienced. We're way ahead of where we were last year, just in terms of scheme and what we put in and reads and keys, stuff like that.
Speaking of Mike McCoy moving on to bigger and better things, I mean, does the dynamics of your offense change, or does everything stay the same?
I think you do. You know, like people are like, hey, I've heard people say, how do you replace a guy like that? And I say we don't replace him. We adapt and we change things, but we're still going to have our base scheme, what we've done on both sides of the ball. I think we just adapt to what we do and figure out ways to get the ball in different people's hands.
Speaking of getting the ball in different people's hands, I mean, Gabe Pendergrass, I mean, you can't wait to get the ball in his hands. Right?
Yeah, you know, we're already thinking of different ways. You know, we know he's going to garner a lot more attention this year to start the season. He's not going to get, you know, the first 4 or 5 games he caught people by surprise. I think they didn't think he was as good based on his film. Like, he's faster in person than he looks on film. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And, you know, as we got to later in the season, you know, he was getting bracketed and doubled and stuff like that. So we're trying to figure out different ways to get him the ball.
Not only that, I mean, you saw Gabe have a very quiet recruiting period, then things picked up, and, you know, it seems like it's been many years since San Ynez has had a guy with that much college scrutiny. So you being his head coach, I mean, just what's your thought process? I mean, what goes through your head when you see a guy who's been busting his tail just suddenly get on the national radar?
I think it's great. I think it's awesome for him. I think it's awesome for San Ynez, the community, and you know, I just told him to enjoy the ride, man. I mean, go to as many camps, go talk to as many guys, take as many unofficial, go watch practices. He just went up and watched Cal Poly practice, and it's like, do that stuff. I mean, enjoy it. This only comes around once in a couple times every 10 years for a St. Ynez kid.
So we've obviously heard the name Pendergrass. We've heard names like McCoy, but give us a player who might surprise us this year, who you think is like maybe one of those under the radar guys on St. Ynez who looks like he could be due for a breakout year.
I think Cash Transith, our tailback, who was a sophomore last year, split time. He looks real sharp right now in camp. And I also think Jasper Cadlick. Jasper was kind of on the radar. He was our sophomore other wide receiver. I think both of those guys, I think they could have some really outstanding games this year and could have good seasons.
All right, we're going to keep a very close eye on San Ynez High. Josh McClurg back. These guys are motivated. They have a chip on their shoulder. They want to take that next step, finally get into the playoffs. Lorenzo J. Reyna with Lee Central Coast News.
Thank you, sir.